Hello and welcome to Cedar Creek Homestead today. I hope you're having a wonderful day, and we've got a nice pretty day here in the hills of Oklahoma, eastern Oklahoma, here at Cedar Creek Homestead. And I been busy today, and I thought I'd do a little this week's video porch talk, but going to do it in the back end of the shop again, due to there's kind of windy out, and you may hear the pecans falling in the background again, just like last week. I got a little old tractor shed out here, and storage shed, whatever you want to call it, and the pecans fall on it. There is a funny thing about these pecan trees out here. When I was a boy, they were little bitty. There's two of them right here, look almost identical. We've got a whole bunch of pecan trees, but my dad wouldn't let me cut these two pecan trees down, and that's probably 8-9 year old, and we had an old shed out here, and where my dad milked the cow and different stuff. So we were tearing all that down, and I had the axe or something, and their saw, whatever, and was going to chop these two pecan trees, or one of them, down anyway. And my dad said, no, we don't cut them down because they're pecan trees. Now, they're big trees now, but they're still, I mean, you know, about this big around or so, and that's been, at least 40 years ago. And so pecan trees are very slow growing, but we've got probably at least 30 pecan trees here on the place that you can't even reach your arms around. They're so huge. They're kind of a neat tree. I wish they provided big pecans, would be kind of nice, instead of the little native pecan. But anyway, it is what it is, and I'm thankful for what I got. And but this week on Porch Talk, I wanted to talk to you about homesteading and faith, or faith and homesteading, however you want to say it today. And I just thinking about this week of how blessed we are, not just myself, but how others that I see on YouTube, and others that that comment on our videos, how blessed we all are to be able to live the life that we have. And there's a lot of folks that would love to be able to have a little piece of property, an acre or two, and try to grow their own food, live out in the country, have a more carefree way of life, but they can't seem to escape the hustle and bustle of everyday life, and it's only a dream to them to be able to live this kind of life. And I think about how blessed I am of the Lord to be able to live this life, how blessed I am of the Lord to even be in the United States of America, where we have such freedoms and blessings and prosperity. God has really blessed us, and I'm not just saying just myself, but He has blessed America so abundantly. And I don't understand how somebody could live, could function, and even, certainly, I do not understand how anyone could make it homesteading without faith in God. And I'm talking about the Jehovah God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the God that is in the Holy Bible that we have. That's who I'm talking about. There's a lot of folks have gods, and there's all different flavors of religion. I'm not, as far as Christianity religion, I believe Christianity is the way. It's the only way. But as far as it goes, there is so many different flavors of Christianity. Just in our little neighborhood here, we have Baptists, Methodists, Pentecostals, and of each one of those you have several different what I call flavors. And so we're so blessed here in America that we can all go to church, we can all worship like we want to. If you don't want to go to church, you can worship at your home. You're free to to do as you want to here in America. And I think we're so blessed with that. I still surprises me, though, of the number of homesteaders that don't go to church. Maybe it is they can't find a church. You know, you'll hear them talking videos that we watch that on Sundays they are not making any plans to go to church. Occasionally, maybe they do. You would think that folks that homestead, especially if you homesteaded full time, that you would have plenty of time to go to church. Now, I understand that sometimes it's hard maybe to find a church because there's some weird churches. There's some weird folks out there. There's some churches that may be more like a cult. But with all the different flavors, it's hard to believe that someone could not be able to find a church, and that you wouldn't be involved in some type of church. I've been in church my entire life, and since we have lived back here in Oklahoma, we've gone to a little church over here, not very far from here, and it's just a little small country church. We sing the old hymns that they sung there when I was a boy. I visited that church, and we would go to it sometimes when they had revivals and different things, and they're still singing. In fact, I think the same old songbooks that they had when I was a boy. And I love it. And we don't have a big congregation. We have just, we might run 30 sometimes on Sunday mornings. On Sunday nights, we may run anywhere from 12 to 20 folks on a Sunday night. Wednesday nights, it even gets slimmer sometimes. And there's been times that there's only been 5 or 6 of us show up. But we still have church. We don't care about having big, huge numbers of people. We just like to get together and worship the Lord. And at our little church, we're non-denominational, but we call ourselves full gospel, which is kind of, we might as well say we're a Pentecostal type belief. But we don't have, not everybody probably agrees 100% on their way that they believe and see the Word, but we get along. We love each other, we fellowship together, and there is a great strength there. Most of the folks that go to our church are older. In fact, we are the young people. I'm 50-year-old, and we're the young ones. If our son, occasionally he goes to church, but me and my wife, in fact, my wife's a year younger than me, so she's actually the youngest person in the church. But we love gathering, and I especially love on Sundays. A lot of my family will come. Sometimes my son and his girlfriend will come, and my mom and dad will come, and my sister and her husband. And I just love getting together, and I guess it's because we do it more of the old-timey way of having church. Used to, I feel like this is the way they done it when I was a boy, so it hasn't changed a whole lot. But some of the newer churches, I know I would have a hard time fitting in. And where we were going to church last church we went to in Arkansas before we moved here, we went there, but we actually helped start the church, and we went there with our friends and family, and we helped start, but it grew into a big church. Now it's really a big church. But I didn't really enjoy it as far as really getting my own personal enjoyment out of it. I just kind of sharing with you a little bit. But I loved going to church, though, and those folks are still very dear to us. If we go back, the ones that were there when we went there, and a lot of the people that go there now know me, but and know my wife, but the ones that were the original ones, they're always, in fact, they made us honorary members of their church. But here where we go, this little old country church, just a simple way, there's nothing fancy about us. You could probably dress about how you wanted to dress. If I wanted to wear my overalls to church, they wouldn't run me off. Now, my wife might, because she wants me to wear a dress shirt and dress pants when I go to church, but sometimes I'll wear jeans to church, and it wouldn't be nothing wrong if I did wear overalls. It's just my wife thinks I ought to dress up a little bit better when we go to Sunday church. But And thinking about in homesteading, I don't know how you'd survive without having the Lord. Knowing that He's here with you. You know, I understand a lot of folks don't serve the Lord. They don't care about the Lord. They don't go to church. Some folks are just plain old atheist or antichrist, and I understand we have those folks around here, and they have no faith, no nothing, and they survive. They grow gardens and they farm and ranch, and they seem to make it. But I think I couldn't make it without the Lord. And what I think of is when times do get bad, because we go through some tough times here from time to time. I've been through I went through a pretty rough batch with health that I had to have open heart surgery, and we went through a rough time with that, and was a very close time financially. But you know, we never missed a meal during that time. We never went and signed up on any kind of assistance. Some had said we probably ought to go on disability, that I should, and tried to get my wife to go sign up on food stamps. We was like, no, we're fine, we're making it. The reason was because God was just blessing us, but we had put food back, we had a little bit of money put back, and we were able to survive. We paid all of our bills, we managed. We've had other times in our marriage that we ran short on money, but God always saw us through. We've always kept the lights on, always been able because of the Lord's help. So sometimes bad things come along, and yeah, I could probably plant a garden and survive, but what would I do in those extreme times? And knowing that I've got a higher power that I can lean on, that I can call upon Him any time of the night or day, I can pray and ask for God's help. I know some folks do not believe in the power of prayer, and that's your business to believe that. I can just tell you, I have prayed and I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that God heard and answered my prayer. So in calling this faith in homesteading, or homesteading in faith, I don't know how you could survive homesteading without God. When I plant a seed in the ground, and I can do my part. I can till the garden, I can amend the soil, I can fertilize, I can water, I can do everything that I know to do. I can read books about it, but unless God sends the sunshine and sends His blessing upon it, it'll never grow. And the weather, I'm dependent upon the weather. I know this year right now we've about 2 weeks early for a hard freeze than what is normal, but throughout the last years, 100 years, whatever, that they have been keeping track here in Oklahoma, there's been many years that we've had a hard freeze before. Now, we're 1st of November, and we have had some frost. It wasn't bad frost, but a couple of days ago we had a really, really hard freeze. 2 nights in a row we've had real hard freezes, and it looks like now we're going to be a lot cooler. And like today, it's cold enough that when I was working earlier, I didn't need a jacket, but just sitting now, I ate some lunch, and I got kind of cool, so I've had to put on a little coat here. But when you get working out in the sunshine, it's not bad. But this evening, it'll be cool enough about dark that we'll need a coat, which is normal. That's just this time of the year. But I still say this, that God keeps it all in His hand, and He keeps it all in His control. If the weather warms up, or if the weather cools down, it's all going to be because of God. If time stops, it'll be because of God. If time continues forward, it'll be because of God. And God in His Word has always promised us. He promised us that there'd always be the seasons. So does that mean that one winter would be colder than another? Yeah, it can be that way. But we'll still have winter, summer, spring, and fall. And we're promised that in God's Word. And the Bible says it rains upon the just and upon the unjust. So when I'm needing rain, it rains here and it rains upon my neighbors that don't even serve the Lord. But I'm not concerned about that. I'm concerned about serving God and having faith in the Lord. And once again, I can't see how you could not be, but if you, how you could not have faith in God and farm or ranch or homestead, especially homestead. One time when I was a boy, we was raising some little bottle calves me and my sister had, and they got the scours, and they were dying on us, and we were down to one little calf left, and so we prayed for that calf, and my dad come out, and me and my sister, it was laying on the ground. Its head was rolled back. Its eyes was rolling back in its head. It was a very sick little animal. It had the bloody scours, if you know what that is. If you farm, I don't mean to be gross about it, but this little calf was in very, very bad shape. And so we prayed for it. My dad had come out, and he looked, and he says, "Kids, I hate to tell you this, but said that calf's a goner, and you might as well drag it on off down there in the pasture." Said it's done with. But we trusted God. We was raised in church, and we'd heard, we'd seen him pray. We knew what prayer was about, so we didn't have no more sense than to pray for this little calf. And we left it in the front yard that night instead of leaving it over at the shed. We had brought it and laid it in the front yard and prayed for it and stuff, but it sure looked like it was just barely breathing, just pretty much gone and wouldn't eat or nothing. And well, we prayed anyway for it, and went in and got some Crisco that my mom had, because the Bible says, you know, if you anoint them with oil. I know a lot of folks don't believe that, and I don't know that you could call Crisco oil, but we went in and got the oil, and I brought the Crisco out, and we dabbed a little bit on the little old calf like we'd seen them do at church, and we prayed and asked God to touch this little calf. And like I say, my dad had said it was a goner, but we come in and went to bed, and the next morning I heard this little calf outside. It was bawling. Ma, ma, and it was wanting its bottle. So I got up and went and fixed it a bottle, fed it a whole bottle of milk, and that little old calf lived and grew and grew into a big animal. And I had always thought this. I believe it was God that kept that that little calf alive. And so I trust and believe God, and I believe God has kept me alive. And when I told you about the open heart surgery, but I believe it was the hand of God that guided the physicians, and I believe God helped me have a speedy recovery, and he had prepared us and got us ready financially and food-wise for what we had to go through. And I think he's doing that now. I think there's coming a time when we're going to be going through some very rough times here ahead as a nation. I don't know how America, since they've turned so far away from God, I don't know how it would keep us from suffering the wrath of God. I know some teach different beliefs than I do, and some believe that God won't do that, but I call it greasy grace. But I believe that because of the sin of mankind and the way man's living and their rejection of God and the way our country has turned here in the United States, we're blessed, but I think those blessings are slowly being lifted, and I believe the hand of God is being lifted. And I think because of that, folks are going to go through a lot of rough times, and exactly what those are, I don't know. I hear folks talk about, some believe it's global cooling coming, global warming, a financial crisis, EMPs. I'm just prepared for whatever, and I just follow what I feel the Lord laying up on my heart, what he tells us that we should do. Then that's what I'm following. I realize that probably today, when people seen Faith and Homestead, that probably a bunch of folks would turn this off and not be interested in at all. But if you are a faith person, you believe in the Lord, well, I want to encourage you to hang on with what you're doing. And most homesteaders, they're kind of preppers too. They're preparing themselves They're trying to live healthier lives. They're trying to prepare themselves to live without being connected, like having to go to the grocery stores and that kind of stuff. So anyway, I sure appreciate you watching today. I've kind of rambled on here, and just want to talk to you just a little bit today about faith and homesteading. And I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you haven't subscribed, if you'd give us a subscription, there is a channel that reached out to us the other day that's in Australia, and it's called Homestead Aus, like AUS, Homestead, and then the word AUS, which I assume stands for Australia. And they've sent us an email and stuff, and a Christian couple, and you might want to check their channel out and see what they got. I checked in there the other day, and they got a few videos. He's got cows and stuff. It might kind of interest you a little bit. I think it's neat that there's like-minded people across the ocean a long ways, and it's kind of neat to get to know folks from other countries, so you might want to check them out. But anyway, if you haven't already, well, give us a thumbs up, comment, share our video, and if you would like to be a subscriber, we'd love to have your subscription, and appreciate all of you that have subscribed. And I appreciate your kind words of encouragement that you have. Some of you have been with us ever since we got started a year or so ago when I first started. Some of you started commenting, and I see your names there, and I was like, hey, they've stuck with me for a while, and I certainly appreciate you putting up with me. And I feel like almost like we're friends, even though many of you I've never met. Just the way that you comment, I'm like, you'd probably be my kind of people that I'd want to sit down and visit with if I could. But anyway, we'll see you next week here on Porch Talk. God bless you, and we're gone.